I was right about WoW2. My sit down with Ian Hazakostas. Looks like Preach had a little interview with Ian Hazakostas that he hadn't posted yet, or this just happened. I'm not sure when he did this, but WoW2 confirmed. I've been talking about what's going to happen after the last Titan and whether or not there will be a WoW2. I don't think there'll ever be like a full-blown, that's it, this game ends and now you got to go buy WoW2. But I do feel like a somewhat of a soft reset, or maybe hard reset, maybe semi-reset, is happening to the game after the last Titan. I think we're going to go back to a kind of a more grounded game, leaving all this cosmic shit behind and returning to what is quintessential Azeroth World of Warcraft. That's what I would like to see, but we'll see if that happens. Let's see what Preach now knows about WoW 2 and why he's saying, I was right. Let's check this one out.
You've done housing. It's going to keep growing. What's our next evolution? And what's the next big feature? I mean, we're getting armor dies, right?
It has been chaos at PG recently between the race to world.
He paused there for a second when he said armor dies, so maybe we are. I don't know. I just feel like colors in WoW are so like you see the armor and you know where it came from. That's how colors work in WoW. So that's why I don't think they'll ever do armor dies. But anyway.
First, casting at Gamescom, having to skip an interview with Yoshi P, my wife then having surgery, and of course, someone literally ripping our internet cable off the side of the building. It's been a nightmare. We're a bit behind, but we're getting caught up because while I was in Germany, I got to see and do some very cool things that are looking at the Shroud of Midnight and what happens beyond. On official scales, even though I talked to a lot of the devs off camera, I got to sit down with Ian Hazakostas and Maria Hamilton, where we discussed not just Midnight stuff, but where WoW is going in the future.
Ooh.
Let's go.
The trailer. Oh, that trailer. Mixed reviews. I'm sad to say I'm in the camp of, I was so hyped for it too. I loved the War Within trailer, and now they could unleash an actual war. It should have been amazing. Graphically, it's good. But I got to see it live. Kind of. While I couldn't head over to Gamescom for it as I was casting for Echo, we did watch it as it happened. It was broadcast way later than expected, and as Echo just stopped playing for the night, the trailer was happening, so we put it on while we were broadcasting.
I will say, one thing that kind of killed the hype of the trailer was the wait time for it. It just, you guys remember, we were live that entire day. I think we went an hour into Gamescom trailers. It was like furry adventure after furry adventure trailer and all these gacha games and all this shit. And then finally, by the time we got the midnight trailer, I was dead ass tired. I was like, oh my God, man, how many trailers do I got to watch to get to this thing? And then as soon as it came, it was gone. Like I thought we were going to get some kind of like post walkout where they talk about some of the features and it wasn't. It was just, here's the trailer and then on to the next furry adventure game. And I'm like, my God. Well, that was anticlimactic. But the trailer itself I actually thought was good.
So I assumed we had missed the beginning. Seeing Zali get turned away by the Astartes was okay, but it left me thinking, oh, well, she kind of lost. So GG's, I guess. My thoughts as I left the venue that night was that the beginning of the trailer that we missed...
She can port anywhere. I don't think she lost. I think she's distracting them, making them come out to fight her, and then she's going to go to the Sunwell and dip her toe in, if you know what I mean.
Had this cloud of void swarming across Azeroth. Stormwind and Orgrimmar fallen to the darkness, and Kel'Thalas was the city that held. The last bastion of mankind, a haven for which we could launch an offensive to retake our lost lands throughout the course of Midnight. That then made the trailer make sense to me. And it'd have been cool, right? But no. Maria had this to say when I brought it up.
And I kind of want to lead into the trailer, because the trailer confused me a little bit. I was obviously so excited for it. But the vibe I got, and you might have already confirmed this, I haven't seen it, is like she's beaten everywhere else in Azeroth and the Sunwell's the last place standing. Because that's the way what I got, is like she's finally arrived at Kel'Thalas.
I don't know how he got that.
Everywhere else is covered in void. Because you've teased. It's like, oh, there's a little bit of void stuff going on anywhere. Or are you actually holding that story back as to what's going on?
I didn't think, nothing is safe from Botox. I didn't think that was what happened. I just thought the Sunwell is extremely important to her plans. For whatever reason, she's been wanting to get there. We've seen it with Void Elves before. If you do the Void Elf campaign, the Sunwell has some kind of weird reaction to Void energy. So she wants to get there. I don't think she's taken over all of Azeroth. Now, we do have expansion, pre-patch stuff happening around Azeroth, where there's these void invasions, much like the Legion invasions that happened before Legion came out. So that is going on. But her focus on the Sunwell, I don't think means that she beat everybody else. I just think that's her main goal, is to get there.
No, I mean, she went beeline for the Sunwell.
Yeah.
She has just gone straight for the Sunwell.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
She wants the Sunwell for reasons.
Okay.
And she's just gone straight there.
Yeah, and the events, the cinematic, that is the opening scenario, that is the opening quest line that will kick off midnight, right? So just as the Legion cinematic teed up the Broken Shore, this is kind of teeing up that initial defense of Kel'Thuzad that will then set up the rest of midnight that follows.
You're going to walk out of that light, just like all those other people are, enjoying the fight.
I thought it was Starties. I thought we were going full Warhammer when the Army of the Light turned up.
Oh, she just said something that I didn't realize. Most likely we're going to get summoned into the fight. That's what it sounds like. She just said you're going to get brought in like the Army of the Light. You're one of those guys. So it sounds like when we do this quest line, we're going to get summoned right into the middle of the war, which sounds cool.
I thought, oh no, the Space Marines are here. We're in big trouble.
So there you have it.
guessing
Zali's
before the
just
video.
going to the Sunwell for reasons that we'll find out later. And
We're going
it'll all
Avengers
make
Endgame, yeah.
sense. Not exactly the big inspiration I'm looking for in a new expansion launch, but here we are. And the other issues people have with Midnight are making sense, especially if you're looking at them through the usual expansion lens. But as we're about to find out, things are far from usual. More on this later.
Okay.
Features. That's what is expected. In Marp, it was monks. In Ward, garrisons, legion, demon hunter,
Yep,
warfronts,
Warmont, that's right.
islands, Azerite armor, covenants, dragon flying. For good or bad, these major enhancements on top of the normal stuff are why copies go off the shelf.
Yeah, no, that is confirmed. Blizzard themselves said that is player characters coming out. Those paladins are no special, like this random army of NPC. Those are supposed to be player paladins showing up.
So
That's why all their armor looks a bit different.
The
They're not
World
uniform.
Prey feature seems interesting,
Cool.
but we have to assume that having decent gear makes it not threatening and just more loot. We'll see. Devourer should be very cool, given what we have seen from the Soul Hunters fight, but beyond that, nothing mega coming with Midnight. In fact, Midnight's biggest feature is actually coming before Midnight. Housing is the major seller. And when I first got to test housing a few months ago, my main question to Paul Cubitt, the Midnight director, was, why is it not launching with the expansion? The company answer does make some sense.
It's a pre-order feature. I mean, it is technically launching with the expansion. You only get it if you pre-purchase the expansion, right? Why is that tripping him out?
Neighborhoods are going to come a bit later, so it's staggered. Let's get housing out and tested and allow a slower integration than everyone just slamming it on launch release. Some of us do remember what happened with garrisons. But in my opinion, this is actually the natural evolution of how World of Warcraft works now. Over the last 12 months, we have paid close attention and made some videos addressing the change of model that WoW follows. The fact is, World of Warcraft is made entirely different now than it was just 3 years ago.
Yeah,
I asked this to Ian and Maria, and they explained it.
One thing that I've noticed since I've been playing a lot more recently, the cadence of content out of you guys is kind of absurd to the point where I don't know how you did this. You went from where we were, and then you, as we've talked about Ian a lot, it's like turning that ship is not easy. This is a giant freight train, and turning it is not easy. And now we're here where, I'm not quite a fan of retail. No worries. We just released Classic. We've got Remix coming up as well. How's that shift internally been with this?
Yeah, he's right about that. And the cadence of content, if you're not just talking about retail, which retail is also faster. Just the way patches come out, how quickly expansions come and go now, it is so much faster than it was in the past. But it's not just that. All the different versions of the game also constantly have new content being added to them. And that's why, if you remember when we watched that Marcellian video not too long ago, he talked about the numbers, the player numbers in WoW, and how they're like near all-time highs. And that's because there's just, and that doesn't mean there's an all-time high of people playing retail. What it is just across all the versions of the game and all the content you can constantly do now, that the total number of people playing the game and sub to the game right now is extremely high. And that's, I guess, a credit to the team because they're just really pumping out content.
Sheer amount of content.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been investing in the team, growing the team, and changing the team structure to parallelize more. So that we don't have bottlenecks. We don't, in terms of reviewing and approving things, but we also don't have resources.
Now, does this also lead to more janky patch launches? Yeah, I think so. I think one thing about the War Within that we could all agree on is, man, every time a patch has hit, like a major patch, there's a lot of broken shit. Yeah, there's been a lot of broken shit, but it's part of the course, I guess. You could either want the content more quickly, or with broken shit in it sometimes, or you can just say, well, wait till it's actually absolutely perfected, which means you're just going to have slower content cadence.
Contention. We have people who are dedicated to making.
I think they'll get better at it as time passes.
Our live team. We have folks who are dedicated to odd-numbered expansions, folks who are dedicated to even-numbered expansions, folks who are dedicated to classic. And so we're not, occasionally, of course, we borrow from one to solve an issue in the other, but that's the exception. Rather than years and years ago, I think we've announced, so many times in the game's history that we're going to speed up the release of expansions and reduce content droughts.
Oh, the 1 year thing.
Yeah,
oh my
and
God.
then it's like, cool, we're going to do it. And oh yeah, by the way, do you have a 13-month wait, in Hellfire Citadel or in Siege of Orgrimmar or whatever? And a lot of that was because, we were just shifting resources like a pendulum from, all right, we're going to pull everything off this and put it over there to get this done. We don't make those trade-offs anymore. We're staffed and structured to support continuous development where it's not coming at the expense of the future.
Right, so this is going to be, you kind of discovered the holy grail of MMOs.
Man, can we just get Plunderstorm again, like constantly up? Why is Plunderstorm go and come? I liked Plunderstorm. I'm not even a PvPer, but that was just such a fun game mode just to play like off the cuff randomly. If I don't feel like fully logging in and doing something intense, I'm like, let me run a Plunderstorm match. This will be fun.
There's an infinite content now because you've got 20 years.
You guys watched me. I was amazing at it.
Which is what I've seen other companies now, the big ones. What do we do here? Because they have so many different versions of the game running simultaneously. It's almost this Venn diagram of people raiding Mogashan Vaults.
I did win a match in every season.
The next raid, and then I'm going around here. And now you're mixing in Plunderstorm, Dastardly Duos, all these extra side pieces of content. Has your role changed at all?
Yes.
I'm interested in how it's gone internally at the top to manage this.
Yeah, as the team has grown, a lot of that has been delegating, right? If you've paid attention to titles and interviews or in credits or whatever, 10 years ago, I was the game director, and we had an art director and a tech director, and that was about it. Now I'm sitting here with Maria, who's a design director over content. I'm going to be on stage tomorrow with Paul Cubitt, who is associate game director directing the Midnight expansion. And so we have folks who are empowered to make a lot of the calls that I was making 8 years ago, and my role is more ensuring kind of consistency and continuity, and that all of these things are moving harmoniously.
So is it more like what John was doing then?
Holly's role is closer to that, I would say. But it's and I think similarly, if you look at the structure, Eli Cannon is our senior art director, making sure that the art style of WoW remains cohesive across the board. But we have an art director on Midnight. We had a different art director on War Within, but the game still feels, like a cohesive whole. But that allows us to get out of, bottlenecks. Ultimately, an issue we ran into in the past, no matter how much we might have tried to grow the team,
better corporate structuring.
There's just a single person who has to review and approve everything. Doesn't matter how hard that person works. At some point, they just reach their limits, and things lag behind.
Yeah, what struggles have you had managing this? Because it happened rather quickly. It's over the last 24 months. We tracked it, and it was like, okay, now every 5 weeks, there's something pretty major coming. So which roadblocks have you hit with that process change?
Communication is a big one.
Yeah.
I think that's right. The more parallelized you become, the more there's a risk of siloing, where now the left hand doesn't know what the right is doing, and that's in part my role and some of the other top level directors. But we've all needed to relearn kind of over communication, because whereas before everyone was working on the same thing, you could just kind of take for granted that everyone had visibility.
So was nobody talking during Shadowlands? Is that what happened? Because that expansion in terms of lore and everything else, I don't know what the fuck. Clearly the hands weren't talking to each other. I don't know if there was cut content or what because of COVID and everything else. Maybe that made it hard to communicate. But my God. There's a grave difference between what happened there and the way we're getting stuff now. Now, I will say now, even still, the lore feels kind of broken in a way. It feels like a lot of stories just never ended, and now we're U-turning into Midnight. But that's also because I know the Metzen effect. He came in during this thing, and he decided to change the end of the War Within expansion to fit it into a trilogy, rather than to just have the War Within be the story of the World Soul of Azeroth. So that's why that is the way it is, and that's why I think Midnight will hopefully be a more consistent story across the entire expansion.
Now, in order for us, to make sure that we are building something up in one place and paying it off down the line, or we're learning a valuable lesson in systems design here and not repeating the same mistake in the next expansion, we need to make sure that we're always communicating.
Would you say you're more agile now? Certainly when it comes to retail.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We also had to adjust our pipeline some too.
Yeah.
Right. Anytime you're voice recording, you need enough lead time to get that localization done. So that means we have to be ready sooner, which meant we needed to prioritize and readjust. So there were some pipeline adjustments as well.
Yeah.
But we're feeling pretty good now.
What this all means then is that right now, the WoW team is all divided up into these separate areas, working on different pieces of content. Right now, there's probably a team working on the expansion that comes after The Last Titan. But as Ian explains here, one big goal is parity. Unlike what happened with Call of Duty, where they also wanted these regular releases, they divided their game up to different studios, Treyarch, Infinity Ward, etc. And what happened there is they got radically different design and systems for what essentially should be the same game, dividing the player base. Now Blizzard's aimed to make it look and feel the same. It should be the WoW you love. If you play Midnight, it should look and feel the same way as The Last Titan does, despite different directors and teams. If you're playing MoP Classic, it should look and feel the same as Legion Remix. That is a big goal to go for. But this constant creation cycle, this never-ending waterfall of content, does lead to an inevitable side effect. Expansions for the main game just aren't the big seller anymore. They are diminished in their value. This allows them to do many things. One, release huge pieces of content regularly. Yeah. If Midnight is...
I will agree with him on this point, that expansions maybe don't feel as exciting as they used to, because now we do get massive pieces of content, like entirely new zones like Argus and everything, just showing up in a patch. Whereas before, a lot of times those kinds of things were really held just for expansion releases. So it does feel sometimes like we get mini expansions in some of these patches because they're so big. And that does make the actual expansions, when they drop, just feel a little bit less like, oh, okay, yeah, we're getting more zones and a new raid. Cool, like that. We've gotten that in a patch at this point a lot of times. So what will make, for me, what makes expansions exciting is the story advancing a lot of times. And yes, sometimes revamps of systems, redos of systems. And Midnight, I'm excited, for some of the new zones. I'm excited for the Amani Troll lore. I'm excited for the Elf lore, going back to Silvermoon. Like that kind of stuff. Those are still pretty big features for me that excite me about the expansion. Player housing is what it is. I've never been a player housing Andy, so that's not getting me out of bed in the morning. What is like I said, the advancement of the story and some of the new zones that we can go to that do feel bigger, a little bit bigger than what we would get in a typical patch.
Not your bag. That's okay, because you know what? In 2 months, there's going to be another major feature of an expansion level dropping in an area of the game you probably do like. And the other side effect? There should never be a WoW content drought ever again.
No, there won't be.
All of this leads us to the future. WoW2 is a subject we've covered a fair bit recently. What is it? What would it look like? But WoW has obvious problems, and while something like a revamp of the whole thing seems very tempting, in our opinion it seems very unlikely. Those problems are not blind to the team though. Let's have a look at what they had to say about what WoW2 might look like.
This engine of WoW, people can talk about WoW 2 and what it would be, because seemingly now this juggernaut that is WoW isn't stopping anytime soon, right?
It is not.
It is not. It's the lifespan isn't going anywhere.
I think, didn't Metzen say that they've already got it planned out to like patch 17? Midnight is going to be patch 12. So patch 17 means what? They're going 5 expansions beyond Midnight already. So yeah, I would say that there's no plan on ending it. By the way, Microsoft paid was like $56 billion or something like that. I forgot what the exact number was for Blizzard Activision, and you best believe World of Warcraft was a big part of that. So Microsoft is not expecting their investment to end anytime soon. So they're gonna make all that money back, and that means this game's gonna continue on for quite a while.
What are we doing in terms
I'll have no hair.
of preparing
by the
for
time
that
we're at patch
next 20
17.
years. Like, you know, we've had issues with the bags and things, but seemingly with housing, we're able to bolt things on that seemingly shouldn't work. And is that going to be a slow process of revamping things?
Yeah, I think it's actually, it's not bolting things on.
Okay.
It is overhauling foundations and some fundamentals.
Candy Crush
of
was the reason why,
things like how instances exist, how things are saved on servers, how pathing works, how, you know, players can place objects that are now persisted on the server. And some of that is, you know, building incrementally on some small things in the past, like, you know, being able to make a choice in your garrison or having your garrison as a seamless instance where you would see, you know, that from across the zone. That seemed like a small thing at the time, but that was novel, and some small piece of that is what will let you walk
Man,
past
Urel, what
your
happened with
neighbor's
her?
home and see what they've placed in their yard. Even though that is their personal instanced home, you're going to see, you know, whatever they've used to decorate their yard. But we see housing as, you know, the tech that's gone into this as an incredibly powerful foundation that we can continue to build on.
It's definitely an enabling tech in that the housing tech could allow people to create custom game modes. I've seen this talked about. We've talked about it. Custom dungeons, like player-created content, certainly has been enabled because of this high customization. I don't know what you call it, the project of player housing, what it's allowed for the game to do in terms of being able to customize create rooms, create objects that you can jump on and leap over and do stuff. If you can, all you got to do at that point is just be able to add mobs into it, and you can create a dungeon. So I don't know if they're ever going to go that route, but it would be interesting.
Not just for the housing system, but, you know, imagine what things down the line
like a Roblox or Fortnite has custom created game modes.
Place objects. You know, there's a whole range of user-generated content that could exist down the line. For example, if you think about, you know, what if instead of a table or a painting, you're placing a trap or a turret?
Turrets, traps that are persistent, real-world tower defense stuff, Warfront's return, or maybe the Tinker class is actually on its way. Who knows where they're going with this thing? But it was really good to see that our predictions over what WoW2 will be came true. They're just going to be a persistent, ongoing change as they, as Ian said, re-foundation certain aspects of the game. However, there are certain things that just for practicality and real-world reasons just cannot be fixed. One of them is actually kind of grim. World lag, when we get a lot of people together. I'm sure you experienced it in Koresh. This is what they had to say on it.
There's definitely a lot of room for improvement there. You know, honestly, I think
that's back to the server tech, right?
We've discussed recently. We had a feature way back on Argus. Those like invasion portals that you could go to. They were basically a way of like spinning off these little mini world boss instances as an extension of the outdoor world. We're like, the first 20 people in the portal. All right, now the portal's sealed. Let's spin up a new one for the next 20. That they felt like an extension of the outdoor world, but could let you have a bit more of that self-contained experience. That's the sort of thing I think we need to do more of. Ultimately, there's something.
I mean, in my dream, we'd have mega servers. They're doing a 40v40 PvP zone and all that coming out, and we have an open world PvP zone coming in Midnight. I wish we had stuff like Wintergrasp again, where it's just like literally unlimited amount of people pour into a zone. And yes, it was laggy as shit and broken as crap, but I used to love seeing that many people in a zone fighting against each other. There was something extremely epic about that. As far as like server tech goes and stuff, I don't know how they could ever migrate the game over to new servers. I don't know what that entails. I'm not a tech guy like that. I have no idea. But I wish we could have mega servers. I do. I think part of what hurts WoW is all the sharding and all the, you know, keeping people apart and trying to stop too many people from seeing each other. Like, it's an MMO. You want to see people. And I feel like the game misses that sometimes because of all the faded shit and the way they're just trying to keep people sectioned off from each other. But I don't know if they'll ever be able to pull it off.
You know, epic about the spectacle of the big world boss that everyone, you know, flies together to take down. But the reality is we want to have hundreds of people in a given zone at the same time for that zone to feel populated and occupied. And when something pops up that calls all of those people together to the same spot.
What is the real reason for the certain servers now? I think it's the investment that it would cost us to change everything to whatever new tech there is out there for servers. I don't know. I mean, now they're owned by Microsoft, so maybe Azure and cloud and all that shit, they're building out their own stuff, and maybe Blizzard will be able to piggyback off of that. But right now, I just think it's just like a huge investment to switch things over from how they currently run. Oh, no, player-wise? like what would be the real reason? To be able to have more people on a server, to not have lag, to eliminate a lot of the issues that come with too many people in a zone at one time. And the way Blizzard solves that right now is they just don't allow too many people in a zone at one time, which sucks, because then there's a lot of people playing the game that you don't see. So that'll phasing and all that shit, I think it sucks for the game. So that's what new server tech would mean, is you could just see everybody if the game feels more alive.
That's just, there's,
10 frames per second in raid, shit like that too.
Yeah, exactly. So imagine you, especially with like dynamic events, where you can have story things going on, where it's like, oh, you have all these people, let's make things happen. Like there's still, WoW is known for really looking at what everyone else is doing and doing it better. And
you have an 8K PC, but you're running 10 frames a second at Dornegal. I mean, that's clearly the funnel, or the pipeline funnel there, is not your PC. It goes back, and it's probably not your internet either. A lot of us are hardwired in with gigabit internet and all that shit. That's not the problem. The problem is the servers on the back end for Blizzard.
Housing is the prime example of that. And that dynamic situation that's occurring isn't there. So is this kind of thing all on the table for, like, you've done housing, it's going to keep growing. What's our next evolution? And what's the next big feature? I mean, we're getting armor dies, right? Good pause.
We'll see. We're getting furniture. Lots of
add-ons do cause problems, and that's part of the reason why Blizzard's trying to get rid of a lot of add-ons. It's a lot of the reason why we see issues in Raid in particular, with all the add-ons running shit, coding, and doing all this stuff in the background. It does create lag, and that's part of the reason why Blizzard wants to, lessen the amount of add-ons people need in the game. I'm saying if they go to mega servers, well, the only way they go to mega servers is if the tech actually works. But mega servers as they existed 10 years ago is not what would exist today. Yes, mega servers would be... I mean, if you've seen... what's the game called? The outer space game, where they have like this new tech where it allows like cross-server functionality, where you can shoot a missile from a zone that's being run on one server and it crosses over perfectly into a zone that's being run on another server. So essentially you create zones. Like Elwyn Forest is a server, Stormwind is a server, and it creates like this ability to create a mega world run on like 40 servers, whereas before the entire world of Azeroth on your server is run on a single server. That's the kind of tech that would allow something like this to happen. I forget who was the company that worked on this. They have an MMO. It's like a outer space MMO. I can't remember the name right now.
Furniture dies.
You do have a lot of furniture dies.
Yes.
But those kind of things I think would be really cool to have that evolution going on.
I've at other studios where I've worked, I've used systems that allowed us to create that kind of dynamic content. And of course, for me, that's a very exciting direction to go. So I'm certainly going to be trying very hard to get us to prioritize something like that.
That would be, it's great when you're wandering through a zone and things just suddenly happen.
It just pops.
Yeah, it just pops. It's a cool thing that's happening, and also reflecting the story.
The whole future of WoW is extremely promising, seemingly to a level that others can't compete with, at least yet. Innovation, competition breeds more innovation, which is simply a huge win for all of us, especially with the MMO market struggling to find that next big thing. Midnight might on the surface seem lacking for some of you in comparison to the major overhaul the game usually gets when an expansion arrives, but I'm choosing to look at it differently. It's no longer just an expansion for me, but it's an extension. It's that race car that no longer needs to make pit stops every couple of years to have its tires changed and fresh things put on. But it's now simply just continuing to go at full speed, with major features coming as and when they are ready, rather than being held back for one enormous drop every couple of years.
Don't worry, the full uncut interview with Ian and Maria will be available soon. The only reason we didn't just upload it in the raw is they have very different skill sets and we jump around a lot during that discussion, but there's lots more in there for you guys to check out. For now, I want to hear your thoughts. This whole new world we exist in within Azeroth is different. It's changed in the last 3 years. Expansions are a little different. Features are coming out whenever and wherever. Let me know what you think, guys. For now, I'll say goodbye and I'll see you again soon.
Nice video. Thank you, Minnie, for the sub, man. 46 months, Jesus. Yeah, a lot of times I disagree with Preach. I disagree with his take on the cinematic and excitement for the expansion and all that stuff. I just feel like sometimes it's a bit negative. But overall, things moving in the direction of WoW2. I agree with the fact that there will never be like a hard reset, like the game has ended, time to buy WoW2. but there is a migration over to what the tech that would be required to have a new version of WoW, or a more, I don't know, open version of WoW, maybe a more creative version of WoW, whatever the future is. That's kind of where the game is heading, and all of that stuff is starting to be added into the game with things like player housing and all the other things coming soon. Nice video overall, and fun stuff to talk about here with Preach Gaming.